Many college football teams are having great, fun, surprising, excellent seasons. And then you've got the college football teams that are struggling. And some of those teams have already fired their coaches. That's because fans and administration have asked the question, what have you done for me lately? And so as we think about that response from fans and oftentimes the administrators, we can have a similar approach and question in our own lives when we actually ask God, what have you done for me lately? Let's unpack it. Welcome to the Unpacking It podcast, where we unpack parallels, metaphors, and topics in sports that relate to life and faith. I'm Bryce Johnson in downtown Mount Holly, just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. It is a beautiful day, and I am thrilled to be joined in studio by Travis Vaughn from Upward Sports, and we are excited to catch up with him. He has been a guest co-host previously, and we continue to partner with Upward Sports, and we are so thankful for our partnership and their support of this podcast, their support of Unpacking It Ministries. And so we're going to get an update from Travis today on the latest with Upward Sports and what they have going on as the fall wraps up, but then also as we look toward next year and continue to encourage you to get plugged in with Upward Sports, start a ministry at your church, and he'll talk more about that in just a moment. But we've got a fun topic today because college football, great season, a lot of good matchups still on the schedule, but there's always that underlying storyline where we're wondering what coaches are going to get fired, what coaches will end up replacing the guys who have already been fired, and fan bases are getting impatient and wondering, okay, is this coach that's currently there going to turn things around this season, or is it too late? And so a lot to discuss, but there is an important parallel that we will get into today as well when it comes to our own lives and our view of God when life is hard, when we're in those seasons of challenge and disappointment and frustration. How do we respond? So excited to have Travis. He is the director of market research, product development, and marketing. He's been at Upward for 12 years. And here's the most important thing about him. He is the reigning champion of the Unpacking It Fantasy Football Fellowship League. And guess what? He is 9-0 this season. So he is looking for back-to-back championships. And this is our big league where we have 3 divisions, 4 divisions. I think last year we had 4 divisions. And so he won it all. And so let's say hello to Travis. It's great to have you, man. How are you doing?
I'm happy to be here. And man, that is my favorite intro of all time, I would say, for myself there, because I'm a competitor at my heart at first. And so pulling that out last year was a fun, exciting time, and then off to a great start this year too. So it's been an interesting time. I've really enjoyed playing along with you guys.
Absolutely. Well, I was looking at your roster though. It's not like you have a dominant roster either. You're just getting by. You've made good lineup decisions, so it's impressive. I got to give it to you.
Yeah, losing Scattaboo the other day. That's tough for the rest of the year to figure out how I'm gonna keep this thing going. But
I've noticed you kept him on your roster too. You can drop him. He's not coming back. We wish he was coming back. We want Scattaboo. We love him. But he's not coming back.
I don't get to keep him next year.
No, sorry.
Yeah.
This is a redraft league, so he's thrown back into the pot next year. But we love having you back on the show. You also have your own podcast, and so you're the co-host of the Kinda Fast podcast. What is that podcast all about?
Yeah, at Upward Sports, we now have an adult ministry side of things. We just hit 30 years as a ministry last month, and we did some celebrations on that. And it's always been a youth-based sports ministry. But in the last 2 years, we have introduced adults to what we're doing there with Upward Running. And so in support of that, Claire and I have a podcast called Kinda Fast, which kind of talks about a lot of running related topics, specifically around what's happening in the sport of running and how to get new beginners and things like that introduced to the sport. And so it's a fun 30 to 40 minute podcast where we talk about running and try to help out the upward running cause there.
That's excellent. And so what is the latest then with Upward Running, and how can our listeners get connected with Upward Running?
Yeah, if you go to upwardrunning.com, you can check out what we have to offer. You know, this time of year, it is something where a lot of people are thinking about, how do I get back in shape, or how do I go and do something new? Like, what's my goals going to be for the new year? And so the fitness craze every year is a part of what people are thinking about. You know, and what we do is we, much like you bring together faith and sports. We bring together running and faith together on that. And so if you're someone who is looking to run your first 5K or even run your first marathon, we've got programs that take you from couch to 5K or couch to marathon on those type of things. But really, it's there for any type of runner. Those that are trying to get faster in the 5K or even run a Boston qualifying time. We've got resources out there. We've got an app, a group of people that get together and can support each other. And you can check all that out at upwardrunning.com.
Upwardrunning.com. That's awesome. Well, very cool. We'll talk more about Upward throughout the show today. But we're going to mainly focus on college football. And as much as we should pick your brain about fantasy football, today we're talking college football because you are a big football fan, and specifically a Clemson fan. And so before we dive into the exact topic today, I did want to get your thoughts on Dabo, because he hasn't been fired yet. We're going to talk about some of the coaches that have been fired, but the rumblings are there. The hot seat is there. Where do you come out on kind of his future, the status of Clemson football right now?
Tough year, something that Dabo's not had to go through before. And I think he's built enough rapport with the fan base that no one's ready to jump off of the bandwagon quite yet. Now,
maybe not nobody, but the majority. How about that?
It feels like it's more of a national story than it is of Clemson's fan base story.
That's fair
at this point. And so there's narratives being pushed because that's an interesting thing. I think he's the second longest tenured Power 4 coach right now behind Ferentz. And so
at Iowa,
yeah. And I think that he has earned the right to figure out how to fix this thing. And I think he's going to be forced to make some big decisions with staff and culture and how he does things in this offseason. And so it'll be interesting to follow along with this. Like, I've always thought Dabo is a great leader. He's faith forward on a lot of things, which is something that's interesting to me as well. And so we get to see him as a crisis leader, there moving forward. And I think it'll be interesting to see how he handles it. I'm still firmly behind it, but I would say if he has another one of these years like this, then the rumblings will become, a lot too much to handle probably for him at that point.
Here's my quick take on Dabo. I'm a huge fan. I've rooted for him over the years. I met him at an event. He was great. I've heard him speak multiple times. He's genuine. He's authentic. It's awesome. I think some of this is challenging. He's in the spotlight. It's sort of a new kind of struggle. And so there's some ups and downs, bumps and bruises that he's experiencing right now for sure. But I personally want to see him do TV. I want him. I think he's done a great job. He's done enough at Clemson. I'm not sure that he's going to thrive in this new era of college football. And there's a spot for him on TV. I think it'd be fun to have him as that next personality. I did a show a few weeks ago. Who would be the next Lee Corso? I know they're forcing Pat McAfee down our throat. Well, now we can't watch ESPN because YouTube TV, but that's a side note. But I think Dabo could be that kind of guy, that type of Lee Corso guy. So that's my preference.
He would be very good.
I think it'd be fun
in that role. I think it'd also be interesting to see, would he ever opt out and go to somewhere else and restart.
I have a tough time seeing that.
There's been discussion of like, once you get beyond about 10 years, like, has your message become numb to the people that you're doing and that type of thing? Would he ever do it on his own accord to kind of keep his history and legacy there at Clemson intact and then go do something else? I can't see it either, but I have heard even Herb Street talk about it recently. So that would be interesting to consider.
Maybe at like a smaller school, a somewhat smaller school, I could see him doing that. But I just don't see him going.
What if Kentucky came open? It's in the SEC, but it's not a top tier school. Would something like that be of interest?
Maybe. I have a hard time thinking that, but no, it's intriguing. I'm curious to see what he wants to do, what Clemson wants to do. How do they finish the season? It is weird to see them struggling the way that they are. But let's dive into sort of this current landscape that we see in college football. Of course, with NIL, transfer portal, things are rapidly changing. Now, over the years, we've always seen coaching changes, right? Now, we don't necessarily see, you talk about the long tenure, the Joe Paternos, the Bobby Bowdens, those types of long decades at schools. Not quite as common. Guys bounce around. They have some success, then they chase the next opportunity. But what we're seeing, especially this year, I mean, we're seeing guys like James Franklin who have just a slow start to the season. You're out. A guy who's been competitive, a guy who's had Penn State right in the mix for a number of years, he's gone. Brian Kelly, goes down to LSU, leaves Notre Dame. He's out. All of a sudden, he's done. And so we look across college football and, Hugh Freeze. Everybody was excited at Auburn to get him coming from Liberty. He's out. You've got Brent Pry, no longer at Virginia Tech. Mike Gundy, after all those years, he was a guy who had a long tenure at Oklahoma State. He's gone. Sam Pittman out at Arkansas. My guy, Deshaun Foster from the Panthers, he was at UCLA, let go pretty quickly. And sadly for him, we knew that wasn't going to work after his first press conference. But and maybe we should have known that at Brian Kelly too after his first experience. Right. But anyway, so we see this in college football where guys are getting bought out. Fan bases are souring quickly on these guys, and administrations go, We'll pay the buyout, $50 million plus for some of these guys. It's fine. We'll get the booster money. We'll get the NIL money, whatever, however they slice and dice it these days. They find the money. They get rid of these guys. But what is your thought just on kind of where college football is at in some of these coaching situations? Which one has been the most intriguing to you?
I think the Penn State, James Franklin, Penn State, Brian Kelly, LSU, those are the most interesting ones for me. I think it's all about hope and expectations in college football. And so when your fan base decides that they've lost hope in you, it's time to move on. And so I think like Napier at Florida, another one. They had given him an extra year to try to figure this thing out. And I think the fan base had said, we don't have hope that we can be a winner here under this guy. I think Franklin, to a degree, had the same thing because of his win-loss record against top 10 opponents, which was terrible. But, man, that one's a tough one. He was in the game, in the fourth quarter, in the playoffs last year, that if they win that game, they may even move on to the national championship game there. He was in the Big Ten championship game last year. Pretty tough football conference there. Pretty tough to make it to the team that won the national title last year, Ohio State, did not play in the Big Ten championship. James Franklin was there. So to be out that quickly on something like that, I think it's a little short-sighted to a degree, but I think it comes down to the hope type thing. And so the fan base and the leadership there went, we have lost hope that you can get us over the hump because you can't seem to win these big games. And so you're off to a bad start here, and we're not going to let you win your job back the rest of the year. Get out of here. And so on the LSU one, on Brian Kelly there, like that's a guy who wasn't off to a great start, and people just generally didn't like him. And I think that was an opportunity to go, you're not one of us, and you're not off to a great start, so get out of here. That one, man, that seems a little short-sighted to me, but That's what it is.
It is wild, and I do think things are a little bit different just because college football is different and how these decisions are being made. But the same question is being asked that we as fans are guilty of this in all sports, but especially college football. What have you done for me lately? And when you think about all these different coaches that when they were hired, the excitement. And for some of them, early on, so they experienced success. They demonstrated their greatness as a coach, and how quickly fan bases forget what these guys did, what they were all about. And you just think, you mentioned James Franklin. It's like, dude, not that long ago, this is what we were a top 5 team to start the season.
I've got a great example. Ryan Day, they wanted to run him out of town.
That's right.
Last year, he loses to Michigan.
Yep.
They want to run him out of town. Get out of here.
Yep.
You're done. He goes on to win the national title in the same year. How crazy is that?
Within weeks.
What have you
within a
done?
month.
What have you done with me lately?
Yep.
For me lately. There, great example there. I think
absolutely. And so we as fans are guilty of this, and then so the administration is sort of part of that too. They're just crazy fans with responsibility, and the money guys that they reach out to and say, hey, we need to pay this buyout, and man, we've lost 3 games in a row. It's a disaster. We're crumbling, and that's the reality. That's what we're seeing, and in many ways it's shocking, but that's what happens in college football. And so, fans are calling for a guy's job. They start, looking around at, who can we get that's better? And how do we replace this guy? And we know the message boards and social media and fans and group texts. And it's like, we got to get rid of this guy. Who else is out there? And at the core of this too is impatience, a lack of gratitude, and just forgetfulness. That what these coaches have done. Now, Deshaun Foster never really did anything at UCLA. It makes sense. So not all of these situations, but we're kind of generalizing what often happens, especially in some of these big programs. These are great coaches. These guys have proven that they're great coaches. Yet fans and administration still says, what have you done for me lately? And they get rid of them. They look around for who else they can get. And it's very wild because these coaches have shown what they're capable of in the past, but fans no longer believe that they can do that again, or that they will, kind of turn things around or get the team back on track. They just start doubting that, and they go, nope, give up.
Yeah, another example would be Mike Gundy. Played quarterback at Oklahoma State, has been there for a long, long time. He's been to Big 12 championships many times. He finally got Stoops out of the way at Oklahoma, and he was having a good run, but he's not had a very good last couple of years, and so the hope was lost, and they said, get out of here.
That's it. Absolutely. And so as we think about this question, what have you done for me lately? I want to parallel this to our own lives, but before we do that, if you were a coach and you were one of the hot guys on the market, where you have your choice, which of these openings would you want to go to? Where would you want to coach?
Well, it's hard to turn down LSU because they've won 3 titles with 3 different coaches.
Says a lot.
Probably since I graduated high school. So you for sure can win there. It's not tied to a single coach of that was a generational type coach that can win. You can win there. But I've always said, I think Florida might be the best job in the country. It's in the SEC, unbelievable recruiting base in Florida. The only SEC school that is a power school there in Florida, and a rabid fan base there. I think for me, I think Florida's the top job.
I don't really like any of those. Florida, actually, I would probably say, just personally, Virginia Tech is very similar to Boone or App State, Blacksburg. So I like that situation a little bit less pressure in the ACC. You have some opportunity. But here's my bigger take. For these guys, Lane Kiffin, for instance, everybody wants Lane Kiffin. Just stay at Ole Miss. You've got a good thing going. Why do these guys always have to jump to the next thing? So that's a separate topic for another day, but that's where I lean. So for all these guys like, oh, I got to jump to the next. Stop. If you're winning and you're in contention for the playoffs and the winning a championship, why do you have to go somewhere else? So that's always baffling to me. Just going back to when Brian Kelly went from Notre Dame to LSU. That's always shocking to me. Now, when James Franklin went from Vanderbilt to Penn State, like I kind of get that because Vanderbilt historically hasn't been real consistent in football. We're seeing what they're doing this year, which now that guy's he's one of those names that might make the jump too. But anyway, I appreciate when guys build their own program and stay there, ride it out.
Yeah, I think good point on Virginia Tech. Like quality of life, expectations.
Yeah.
Stay there a long time. Build something that's yours. That would be a great job to take. But I don't think that's the one you go to if you want to try to win a championship in the next 5 years. If you're that type of coach that you think I can do this and I just need the resources, I don't think that's the one. But I'm with you. I might pick that one over any other one just because of some of the other factors there.
And you're not following Frank Beamer. Mm-hmm. You're the guy that's followed the guy. So that's always nice too, because you don't want to be right after the legend either. Which of course Beamer had a great run there at Virginia Tech. And his son Shane Beamer, I'm not sure he'll stick around how much longer at South Carolina. I know that's your rival as a Clemson fan, but that's actually intriguing if Shane would go to Virginia Tech.
He should absolutely do it if he gets the opportunity.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
Just restart your coaching career, your timer on that.
I know. That's intriguing to me. But with all these situations and we'll see more coaches fired in the coming weeks, almost as losses start piling up. What have you done for me lately? And here's the reality in our own lives. Oftentimes we find ourselves in challenging situations, difficult seasons. Things aren't going the way that we want them to. And we turn to God, and maybe we don't say this specifically, but it's there. It's in our hearts where we go, what have you done for me lately? Where are you, God? What have you done? I mean, why am I dealing with this? Why am I losing? I'm in this losing season. What's going on? And what do? We get frustrated, we get discouraged, and we start looking around. And we go, how can I replace God? Right? It's like, I'm gonna go over here and give into pleasure, and I'm turning my back on God a little bit, or I'm gonna try to do things in my own strength, and so it's all up to me. And we respond to Him or turn to Him in ways that are very similar to how we as sports fans react to these college coaches. Now, the biggest difference that we have to be very clear about is God is perfect, holy. He always knows what He's doing. He's always on the throne. And so even though we in our limited understanding and in our pride and all that, we think that, come on, you owe me. I deserve this. What have you done for me lately? But really, the key that we have to go back to is remembering and not being forgetful. We have to remember what God has done for us and remember who He is and remember His character and remember the truth of His word and what we learn about Him and how we know Him to be. He is good. He is faithful. And so during those challenging seasons, who are we to turn to Him and go, what have you done for me lately? But we do it. And so we have to be convicted of that and humble ourselves and go, gosh, I'm sorry, Lord. Why am I acting that way toward you when all you've been is good to me? You've sent your son Jesus to die on the cross for me, to save me, to give me eternal life. You've walked me through so many difficulties throughout my life. You've blessed me in so many different ways. But we always ask the question, what have you done for me lately? Now I'm in a tough season. How quickly we forget all the wins, all the blessings. And very simply, what do we have to do? We just have to remember the last breath we've taken. That's His kindness. That's His goodness. That's His grace. And so, Travis, as you think about, just in your own life and even the times that you've kind of found yourself with this type of attitude, like a fan that goes, what have you done for me lately? What comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm one that is pretty thankful most of the time. That's the spirit that I am. I come from a place where I've met or exceeded all expectations of what I thought my life could have been as an 18-year-old or something like that. And so I feel very happy to be where I'm at. But there's certainly times where you want more or hope for more or those types of things. But I just try to live in a spirit of contentment and happiness and thankfulness. And I think generally that's where I fall.
That's awesome. No, it's great. That's where we want to be. And I think the challenge that we want to stay on that type of track and mentality is just like these, we as fans with these coaches, we start to doubt that these coaches can still get it done. And sometimes we just doubt that God is able or that he's powerful or that we start to lose that hope a little bit. And so we have to remind ourselves again of his character, of what he's already done, the faithfulness of God. And then the doubts start to go away. They'll threaten, they'll come in and we go, does God really still care about me? Does he really still love me? Is he really gonna take care of me? And when those thoughts start to swirl, we got to go back to the truth. We got to go back to who he is and his character. And so a couple encouraging verses for us today. If we look at Psalm 77, 11 through 14. But then I recall all you have done, O Lord. I remember your wonderful deeds of long ago. They are constantly in my thoughts. I cannot stop thinking about your mighty works. O God, your ways are holy. Is there any God as mighty as you? You are the God of great wonders. You demonstrate your awesome power among the nations. And so that's the prayer. That's the type of attitude. That's the heart posture that we can be encouraged to have. And so we look at 2 Timothy 2:13 in the Amplified Translation. It says, if we are faithless, he remains faithful, true to his word and his righteous character, for he cannot deny himself. Hebrews 10:23, let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful. And Psalm 33:4, for the word of the Lord is upright and all his work is done in faithfulness. And so again, as much as what we're doing today is comparing our responses as imperfect, unfaithful humans, similar to sports fans and college football fans, but the character of God is much different than these college coaches, because these college coaches are flawed. They do lose games. Oftentimes they aren't the answer anymore. We get all that. But as we continue to look at who God is and his unending, unchanging, trustworthy character and goodness and power, that's who we trust. That's who we turn to. That's who we cling to, no matter the season that we're in or the challenges that we face.
Yeah, think about sometimes we only think about our life as like we're the main character and it's our storyline and that type of thing. Sometimes God is working on something that is bigger than us, that we may play a role in, but it might not be. It might be as a supporting character, not as a main character, or it might just be his timing on things. I'll give a quick example. 7 years ago, I started back running, distance running. I used to run in college and high school and that kind of thing, but I give it up for a long time. I got back into running, and I decided I wanted to see if I could run a Boston qualifying marathon. And since then, I tore my calf. I tore the root of my meniscus and had knee surgery. I have had terrible Achilles tendinopathy and plantar fasciitis, and like all up and down as far as running and not running and that kind of thing. But all leading to 2 weeks ago, I did run that Boston qualifying time, and it was a joyous time. I was very, very thankful. And it just happens to be at a time where I've got a running podcast that I just suddenly started, and I get to talk about how thankful I am on that running podcast to maybe encourage others to keep going when they're in a tough spot as well. I could have never known when I tore my knee up that that this was maybe part of a bigger story. I could have never imagined that in that moment, but now that I'm here, it does seem like I had these ups and downs so that I could tell this story to a larger audience at a later date. So that's kind of one of the things I think about here.
I love that. And we as sports fans get so short-sighted because you mentioned, especially Penn State fans, where we're just looking at this week or the last game or the last 3 games, and we lack the bigger picture. We don't consider as fans, wait, what other coaches are actually available? Are they actually better than James Franklin? We forget all that's happened. And so when in our own lives, when we get so focused on just this current challenge and we lose sight of who God is, what he's doing in our lives, the reason for this challenge, the good that is going to come of this challenge, and going back to the Ohio State fans, they didn't realize what was going to happen. They're just thinking about, we lost to Michigan. Well, what? I know they like to beat Michigan, but winning the championship is still more important. And so that was the bigger goal. And they couldn't see that. They didn't know that was coming. And so often in life, we what have you done for me lately? God, what are you doing? Where are you at? And he's working. He's working things for our good as we trust in him and follow him. And the experience is strengthening us. It's deepening our faith. It's refining our character. And he's setting things up. He's orchestrating things down the line that we can't see. And so we have to pull back and not that we can see the big picture, but we have to be sort of surrender to the bigger picture and to the larger perspective versus just so focused on the last loss or this current season. When God's been faithful forever, he'll continue to be faithful forever, and he's working in our story. And to your point, sometimes we've got to take a different role in the story too. So that's good. I like that. So it's a question that comes up. What have you done for me lately? And I hope that we can kind of catch ourselves with that mentality. And you mentioned it earlier, gratitude, thankfulness, contentment is how we combat this. Remembering is how we combat this. And then humility, because so often these fans, they think they've got all the answers. I think I've got all the answers. This is who the coach should be. This is what he should be doing. He should be playing this quarterback. He should fire his defensive coordinator, and he refuses to do it. He should recruit this guy, this 4-star over here, this 5-star over here. We think we know everything. And we do this with God too. Like, he should be doing this. What have you done for me lately? Come on, I know all the answers. But it's in humility that we surrender to him and go, God, I don't know what's going on. This season's tough. It's things aren't really clicking, but I trust in your process. I trust in what you're doing, and I know that you are good and faithful. And this verse has been in my heart the last week. Last week we did not have our podcast. Last Monday was the 10th annual Unpacking It golf tournament, and it turned out tremendous. It was awesome. However, it rained. And it was like, God, what are you doing? What have you done for me lately? He's given us, 8 out of 9 years, sunny tournaments. And then all of a sudden last Monday, it was a rainy day. And the verse that he put on my heart as I drove to the course last Monday, Philippians 4:4, rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. And so that was the attitude that I tried to have as we went to that golf tournament. And it did rain. And it's like, oh, come on. Why couldn't you give us a beautiful day today, Lord? But the way he worked in that day was remarkable. It was inspiring the way the guys persevered and revealed their character through playing in that tournament. It was inspiring to me. It was inspiring to some of the guys that were maybe new to the Unpacking It community. And then it was the most fruitful golf tournament we've ever had. And so God was working in the midst of it. But if I would have just focused on, oh, come on, why would you just give a son today? And what have you done for me lately? I would have missed out on the blessing and maybe not been willing to rejoice in the Lord always. But that's what we as followers of Jesus can do, must do, because of who he is. He's always worthy to be praised and rejoice in who he is. And so anyway, I wanted to somehow tie that into all of this as well, because that's been on my heart as well. But any final thoughts on this topic and how it hits with you, Travis?
I think you've nailed it there. And so I think your notes about being content and grateful and coming at all of this with humility, that's the way we have to do that. And the further you grow in your faith, I think the more natural sometimes that can come. And not to state that I'm like so far along in my faith or anything like that, but I do feel like at this point in time in my life, it's easier to do that. And so that's what we should strive to do.
Absolutely. And to hit the word impatient again too, that's really what these fans are. Like when we are don't like our coach and we're frustrated, it's because we're impatient. An 0-3 start, a 3-3 start, it's taken maybe 1 or 2 seasons for this coach to get his footing. We don't like that. We want instant results. We want to happen now. And so this translates into our walk with the Lord too. We go, God, what have you done for me lately? I want it now. I want it now. I want it now. And we have to be patient. We have to be patient. Allow him to work in us, through us, around us. And so we can trust him in that. And so today, let's continue to praise him no matter what. Let's be grateful for all the blessings that we do have. Again, the breath we just took. Let's be thankful for that. Let's start there. And let's remember too, that we might look around and, this is better, this coach is better, and I'm going to find pleasure over here. I'm going to go over here. Nothing can replace the almighty, wonderful God of the universe who loves us personally and intimately, who cares about us. Nothing can replace him. And so we can try, we can chase all these other things. They'll never satisfy. They'll never fulfill us. And they'll never satisfy the deepest longing of our souls. And so only Christ can do that. And so I hope that is an encouragement and a reminder to us today. And one of there's so many wonderful characteristics of God, but I've said it 100 times today, but it's the faithfulness of God. He is faithful. And so do we believe that? And how do we, understand that? We reflect. We look back. We look back at his faithfulness. We go, yeah, God's faithful. So I can trust him today. I can trust him moving forward because he's been faithful. He's been faithful in my life. So just like Psalm 77 that I read earlier, but then I recall all you have done, O Lord. I remember your wonderful deeds of long ago. Christ sent Jesus, what he did on the cross, we remember that, and then all the moments of our lives where he's impacted us, changed us, transformed us, and so we are forever grateful for that. So there you go. That's this week's topic. And Travis, as we wrap up today, we're always thankful for our partnership with Upward. And as people are sort of maybe even thinking about next year and planning some other maybe ministry thoughts and opportunities, how do we reach people in our community? What are some of the other Upward sports programs or things that are happening at Upward that our audience needs to be aware of? Yeah,
great time of year to start thinking about. Once you get through the holidays, we find that a lot of churches are looking at what's our community outreach strategy for the new year. And so Upward Sports is a great tool that you can use to reach your community. Last year, 51% of the kids that played Upward Sports across the country were completely unchurched. And you're going to get, generally in a league, you're going to get about 20 opportunities to interact with that child and with that family when you do an Upward Sports League. Those are people generally coming to your campus, and you having the opportunity to interact with them. These are people that would come to a ball field but wouldn't come to the sanctuary. And so there's great opportunities to play sports, to be a community place where the church is seen as a resource in the community of like, oh, they're the ones that play basketball, or they're the ones that play flag football or soccer or whatever. But in the end, it gives you the opportunity to share the gospel in your community so that you can reach more people around you. Love it. Absolutely. So upwardsports.org/unpack. And you can find out more information about getting in touch
with Upward Sports and encourage people to just continue to support Upward upward.org/unpack, upward.org/unpack. And be sure to schedule a call and connect with them. And we continue to love our partnership and love what Upward is doing around the country and churches and communities. And again, like you were talking about earlier with Upward running and being able to get adults engaged in exercise and sports is important as well. But then also, man, if we can impact these kids at a young age where they love sports, they actually enjoy the experience. It's the number one focus isn't you've got to be a champion. It's all about this. It's hey, let's develop character. Let's enjoy just what sports are. And so Upward facilitates that, creates that culture, that environment, being able to equip coaches to lead well, and keep it rooted, in the gospel and helping people grow in their faith along the way through sports. So we love that. So upward.org/unpack. And Travis, man, thanks for being a guest co-host, talking a little college football today. It was fun, and wish you the best the rest of the way with fantasy football. 9-0, so we're coming for you. We're trying to take you down, but good luck trying to repeat as champion as well, the Unpacking It Fantasy League. So, any final thoughts? We appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you having me up here today, and college football coaching carousel, one of my favorite topics. So it was a fun time to be a part of, but love what you guys do here, and want to continue to try to incorporate what you guys are doing here into what we do at Upward Sports, because it nails exactly what we're trying to do, which is parallel, faith and sports here.
Absolutely. That's what we love. So we'll continue doing it. And he's Travis Vaughn from Upward Sports, and be sure to check out his podcast, Kinda Fast Podcast. And so we appreciate him driving up from Spartanburg, South Carolina today to be here in the studio. And even though his Clemson Tigers are having a tough season, we didn't even get into the Dallas Cowboys coming off a tough Monday Night Football loss. So we'll save that. We focused on his 9-0 fantasy team. So there you go. But he's Travis Vaughn. I'm Bryce Johnson. I'm a sports fan who follows Jesus. I believe in the good news that he died on the cross for my sin. He was resurrected, and through faith, I've been saved by his grace. I hope that is true for you as well, and I hope you'll join me as we live life as sports fans who follow Jesus together. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much to Upward Sports. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time right here on the Unpacking It podcast.